American Eagle's 30-second Great Jeans spot starring Sydney Sweeney seemed harmless at first. A playful switch of jeans to jeans, a charity tie-in, and a Hollywood face to sell a new denim line. But within hours of its the 28th of July 2025 drop, social media morphed the pun into a cultural flashpoint. TikTok stitches branded the slogan eugenics coded. X users revived #GreatJeans alongside #GreatJeans, and memes compared Sweeney to Brooke Shields' once banned Calvin Klein ad. Critics argued that placing the phrase on a blue-eyed, blonde actress echoed historic racial purity propaganda. Viral explainers from academics traced the slogan's lineage to forced sterilization policies. Supporters shot back that outrage culture was policing word play, and everyone woke up to the same viral whisper, Alicia Keys isn't playing the patient picture-perfect wife anymore. The internet is buzzing that she's quietly gearing up to walk away from Swizz Beatz after a mess that didn't just stain their image, it allegedly rewrote the whole story behind it. Timelines, TikToks, and T accounts are all tossing out the same claim, a long-running, behind-the-scenes entanglement that spiraled into a baby rumor and pushed Alicia past her breaking point. None of this is officially confirmed, but that hasn't stopped the feeds from melting down. It's the kind of rumor that travels faster than facts, and it landed on a couple whose entire brand looked bulletproof. If it's true, everything changes. The music, the business, the legacy. If it isn't, then we're watching a masterclass in how the algorithm can build a narrative out of smoke. Either way, the question is simple. How did a love story this big get dragged into a storm this loud? And why now? But that's just the surface. The deeper you go, the more old wounds, old names, and old receipts start crawling back out of the archive. And what comes next could flip how you remember this couple forever. From the outside, Alicia and Swizz weren't just a couple, they were a brand. Two artists who knew how to turn music into culture, headlines into moments. They met as teens, reconnected as adults, and in 2010, the world watched them seal it with a wedding and, later, 2 children. To fans, they felt like the Weeknd version of Power and Peace. Her voice, his beats, their philanthropy, their red carpet glow. Even during the years when the industry was shifting, they seemed to move in sync. Collaborations, art circles, and buzzy cultural projects that kept their names on playlists and in galleries alike. For every rumor that tried to rattle them, there was an Instagram post, a staged photo, a joint appearance that looked like a living rebuttal. Stability became part of the brand, and that's why the current frenzy stings. When the internet hears that a perfect couple isn't perfect, people don't just get curious, they get invested. Now the stakes are bigger than private heartbreak. They're reputational, financial, and generational. But the timeline didn't crack overnight. The hints were always there if you knew where to look. This is where the tea boils over. Across summer 2025, gossip pages began threading the same storyline. Alicia has allegedly had enough, and there's talk of lawyers, papers, and a quiet strategy to move first. Some accounts claimed she was spotted without a ring. Others pushed photos that supposedly showed her near a law office. Are any of those details verified? Not by reputable, on-the-record sources. But social media isn't a courtroom. It's a catalyst. The more people shared, the more believable it felt. Add in the algorithm's taste for scandal, and suddenly, maybe turned into probably for a lot of viewers. That's the power and the danger. If the visuals are strong and the captions are confident, the rumor becomes the reality people react to. Reactions flooded in. Sympathy for Alicia. Jokes at Swizz's expense. Think pieces about loyalty, hypocrisy, and history repeating itself. And yet, without a formal statement, all any of us have is a swirl of claims stacked on a decade's worth of complicated context. Because the whispers don't stop at divorce, they point at something even messier. The part that detonated the story wasn't just the idea of sneaking around, it was the allegation that a new baby is involved. The rumor says the woman isn't a random. She's linked to him professionally, someone in his creative orbit, someone confident he could elevate. If true, that changes everything. A fling can be denied, A child rewires the future. It touches finances, estate planning, co-parenting calendars, holidays, headlines, and the delicate lattice of loyalty that holds a blended family together. It turns a private argument into a public reckoning. And for Alicia, who's built a careful image around positivity and balance, that kind of blow isn't just personal, it's a risk to the story she's told the world. Remember, none of this has been confirmed by either party. But when the rumor includes a due date, a timeline, and a familiar-looking studio backdrop, people connect dots whether or not those dots belong together. The internet loves a pattern, and this pattern has a history, one that predates the wedding and echoes through every comment under every post. Old names never stay buried online. The moment this latest swirl started, timelines filled with a refresher course on the early days, how overlap rumors followed Swizz for years, how an open letter from his then-wife, Mashonda, lit up the blogs, how another child with another woman shaped the narrative long before Alicia put on a wedding dress. These aren't new accusations, they're archived chapters that tend to resurface every time the couple trends. In that version of the story, Alicia didn't stumble into a clean slate. She walked into a fire and learned to live in the smoke. If you accept that context, then the current rumor isn't a random twist. It's a sequel. And sequels, as we know, are rarely better than the original. The harshest commenters say it's karma. You lose 'em how you get 'em. Others push back, arguing that relationships are messy, adults make choices, and people can grow. Both takes explode every time a paparazzi shot goes live. But the internet doesn't stop at moral math. It moves straight to consequences. Here's the split screen. On one side, users stitching clips, laughing at the irony, and posting side-by-sides from a decade ago like they're evidence. On the other, fans defending Alicia, pointing out that nobody deserves humiliation, and urging people to remember the kids who get caught in the crossfire. That tension powers the conversation. It's not just celebrity gossip, it's a referendum on forgiveness, double standards, and the narratives we root for. The interesting piece is how the couple's own silence becomes fuel. Without a clear denial or confirmation, everybody reads the same vacuum and projects their version of the truth. It doesn't help that old interviews, dusty screenshots, and half-remembered quotes are getting recycled with fresh captions, each one designed to spike engagement. If you think the feed cares about nuance, scroll longer. What it wants is momentum. And momentum tends to crush whatever stands in its way. Which brings us to the real-world stakes. Beyond the memes and moralizing, there are careers, contracts, and brands that don't love chaos. Celebrities don't exist in a bubble, they're ecosystems. Alicia's catalog, touring potential, partnerships, and philanthropic campaigns form one. Swizz's creative direction gigs, brand tie-ins, and art world credibility form another. A firestorm like this doesn't automatically end deals, but it does trigger risk reviews. If the rumor hardens into something official, the next moves matter. Does Alicia lean into the rebirth narrative with new music? Does Swizz pivot into the studio bunker and let the songs do the talking? Even the most personal split can become a storyline that reshapes streaming, ticket sales, and corporate comfort levels. And sometimes, scandal sells. We've all seen artists pull record numbers after brutally honest albums. But that's art alchemy you can't fake, and it requires real pain. The brand question is simpler. Who will blink first? Sponsors don't mind heat, they mind unpredictability. The longer the silence holds, the more managers and lawyers get involved behind the scenes, calculating which version of the story protects the most value. And if the whispers about paperwork are true, the calculations are about to get very specific. No two celebrity splits are the same, but the general outline is familiar. First, the forum. If filings happen in New York, the rules around marital property, support, and privacy orders shape what we'll ever see. Second, the paper. Prenups exist to make messy endings cleaner, but they're only as strong as their language. They can be challenged, negotiated, or weaponized. Third, the kids. Custody arrangements tend to be the most sensitive and the least public, and both sides usually agree to keep that part out of the spotlight. Fourth, the leak. In high-profile cases, one well-timed source quote can steer public opinion for months. And then there's the wild card, the music. Alicia could reclaim the narrative through a project that reframes this as a season of growth. Swizz could counter with a curatorial flex that reminds people why they respected him in the first place. Or both. Could choose silence and let time sand down the edges. If we see anything at all, it'll likely be a carefully worded statement, short, neutral, and designed to shut the door on speculation. But statements can't stop what's already out there. The question is, what's real, what's rumor, and who benefits from the blur? Why do these stories stick? Because they speak to patterns people think they recognize. The charmer who can't stop chasing, the superstar who forgives until she can't, the blended family stretched thin by old mistakes and new temptations. Whether you believe the latest rumor or not, it's playing with a deck the internet already knows how to shuffle. There's also the power dynamic, Swizz as the connector, the producer who can make a career with a single cosign, Alicia as the icon, the voice that turns personal pain into public anthems. When power and intimacy overlap, mentors and protégés get folded into the mess, and that's where the baby rumor lands like an earthquake. If it's false, it's cruel. If it's true, it's the kind of twist that leaves scars on people far outside the spotlight. Either way, silence has a cost. It keeps things dignified, but it also invites 1,000 little stories to fill the gap. And in 2025, the gap is a content machine, which brings us to what we still don't know and why that matters more than any viral caption. Here's the cleanest truth. As of now, there's no official statement from Alicia or Swizz confirming a divorce, confirming a pregnancy, or confirming anything at all. Everything else lives on a spectrum from credible sounding to click chasing. But don't underestimate the power of that spectrum. It shapes moods, brand decisions, and the way fans show up for music that hasn't even been written yet. If Alicia speaks, the tone will set the stage, graceful goodbye, firm denial, or a careful request for privacy. If Swizz speaks, the room will listen for accountability, deflection, or a plan to repair. If both stay silent, the rumor becomes folklore. For now, consider this a living story. Part history, part speculation, part lesson in how modern fame works. Believe the timeline you want, but remember that real lives are on the other side of these posts. The biggest twist might not be a scandal at all. It might be a joint statement that makes the internet eat its words. Until then, the feeds will keep spinning, and the truth, whatever it is, will arrive on its own time. If you've been following this saga from the beginning, drop your take below. Do you think we're witnessing the collapse of a long love story, or the latest case of rumor-driven storytelling getting ahead of reality? And when the real answers land, will the internet care as much as it does right now? Or will it have already moved on to the next fire?